What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'll be your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me this afternoon to talk about the fearing, the towering Walter Nolen defensive tackle out of Ole Miss is Brian LaBelle. Brian, how you doing, man? And whew, Walter Nolen gets a lot of hype, and I think is well deserved. What did you like about the young man watching the film?
He was just the anchor on the best defense in the country, so it is no big deal there. But I mean, dude, he's a massive, massive human being. He moves very, very quickly too for his size. I really like what he does as far as the run stopping ability is second to none. I don't know if there's anybody in the country that's better at filling gaps, preventing offensive linemen from getting to the next level. I mean, he's all over the place. He's tremendous in every aspect of that word, as far as his prowess, his quickness, his strength, his skill, everything. I mean, he plays a lot of confidence too. And if you watch the tape, he's doing it against Georgia, he's doing it against Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, he's doing it against the best of the best, and he's holding his own. And I mean, there was a stretch there where we really thought Ole Miss might be the best team in the country, and the defense was a big part of that. I know Jackson Dart and that offense gets a lot of credit, but Walter Nolen was spearheading a team that looked destined for a championship at one point. Some injuries, some guys got banged up, but I mean, he certainly did his part. I think some teams can be very lucky to have him on their roster next year.
Yeah, and talking about just how impressive that Ole Miss Rebels defense was this past season, Brian, they were all over the place. They set school records with 52 sacks and also 120 tackles for loss. And the guy on the screen here was doing a lot of that. It was the like you mentioned, the anchor, the leader, the guy that rallies the troops, right, and gets them prepped for these games. So that's a testament to his leadership to keep his guys in check and locked in, like you said, pretty much all season. And man, you didn't want to go up against Ole Miss in that defense this past year. They were a show, no doubt about that. But like you said, with Nolen, like he's a big dude. He's got great speed for a guy of his size, also. Which I think is just more great intangibles he has. And I think that, looking at how he plays, like you say, he's got really good agility, really good speed, that great first step, which is key. Any kind of defensive line player, you got to be able to get that first step to get the advantage on the opposing offensive lineman. I mean, he's got that grit, that mean demeanor, right? I'm going to get to the quarterback, I'm going to sack, I'm going to get this ball no matter what. Which I like out of my defensive players. I want them to have an attitude like that, to say, hey, I'm ready to go to war for this team. I'm ready to win some ball games. So I like that. I think also, too, whenever they do end up, they drop him into some pass protection, he can also hold his own there, right? He can go up there, he can swat a couple of balls if he needs to, because that's just that good athleticism he has, that jumping ability. That first step, as I mentioned, is just a key component. And he is just, you can put him anywhere on the field, and I think he could pick it up quick and learn it great. But there's a reason why he is one of the highly rated, not just defensive players, not just defensive tackles, but players in this draft. And that's because of the ability he's had on this Ole Miss team. And man, as fun as it was watching him in college, I know a lot of the opposing schools who faced Ole Miss are happy that this guy's going to be gone after this, just about a month from now.
Yeah, they were ready to be up at the podium, like, hey, let's shake his hand, let's get him his papers and get him out of here, right? Like, hey, on to the next level. I don't want to see you on Saturday anymore. I mean, he's 6'4". He's a sub 540 guy, 6'4", 300 pounds. That's ridiculous. He's very quick. The one issue that a lot of people have with him is his pass rushing prowess. He doesn't really seem to have a plan, which I think as a pass rusher, you got to have a plan. You got to know what you're doing. First move, second move. What do I do if I counter? He still had 6.5 sacks, not really knowing what he was doing. And a lot of it is just raw athleticism and talent, and I'm going to go get the quarterback regardless of what happens. And he would just overpower guys. And it's with his size and his speed and his strength. I mean, obviously that's not a surprise, but I mean, this dude was, it almost seemed like as a quarterback, it's a nightmare scenario, because you're looking at the defensive front. Everybody wants to sack me, right? And with how many times they got after the quarterback, all the tackles for loss, they're breaking school records. It was just like, all right, let's just get this over with, right? How many times are they going to get me? And then let's move on. And Nolen was he was the looming presence there, because you couldn't really run to the inside a lot. You could ask Georgia fans, if you watch the tape of that game, I mean, they could not move the ball as well as they had, even against Alabama, even against some of their SEC opponents. It's just, I don't remember. I think they only scored twice in that game, if I'm not mistaken. And
I think so, yeah.
I mean, Walter Nolen is a stud. I know he's not necessarily the most highly touted defensive tackle right now. I think a lot of that is the raw skilled and the development that still needs to take place. But there's a lot of this. We mentioned it earlier with Xavier Watts. I mean, he's not that far off of the Mason Grahams and the top guys in this draft class at his position. It's just, and almost if you're a defensive coordinator, a defensive coach, you bring him in, you're sitting here thinking, man, this guy's still got a lot of talent, a lot of development. I mean, we don't know what his full potential is because I don't think he's reached it yet.
No, I agree with you. And just my final thoughts talking about Walter Nolen. I think that when he gets drafted here in mid-April, I think that if he goes to a team that has a very experienced, maybe a coach at the defensive line position, working with just D tackles, and I think that will benefit him because, like you said, he still needs to refine his pass rush, and you're going to have that in the NFL. So I think if you go to a veteran core, maybe a couple of vets there on the line with you, they can obviously help you out and teach you the background and help him become a better pass rusher. But run stopper, obviously, he can do all that with ease. And I think ultimately, man, just Walter Nolen is going to be if someone can train him right, if someone can just say, all right, let's do this, this, and this, and he'll check off all the boxes. I think that the sky's the limit for him just because of the pure raw talent we've seen out there with the Rebels the last handful of years. But if you just get him someone experienced there, I think that could really be a big factor. I mean, that's what we see with a lot of guys coming out of college, offense or defense rather, that if you get drafted and you go to a core with a lot of vets on the team, maybe who are a little bit older, who might not be around the league for a lot longer, they can help you out and they can teach you. And then those guys become kind of predecessors, right? They become guys to hold up the team for the next 5-10 years. And that's super important to have. That's why we see a lot of teams that are just super young kind of sputter because there's no real leadership out there. But with vets in there, with a good coaching staff, I think that, it's going to be a key to success for Walter Nolen, wherever he goes in the league. But I think it's going to be just a show watching him come draft day. But Brian, what are your final thoughts here on Mr. Walter Nolen, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss?
I think he's going to be a prototypical example of this draft class. There's going to be a lot of it where you're going to find out how good teams are and organizations are developing the talent they bring in. Because there's a lot of guys where you look at it's raw prospect, right? Sky's the limit, raw prospect. He's got all the tools, all the intangibles. It's just, can you refine it and can you put it on the field to where he's wreaking havoc on Sundays? And you talked about having good vets. I think one of the best signings the Atlanta Falcons ever had was bringing in Dwight Freeney the year they went to the Super Bowl. He didn't have great numbers. He wasn't tremendous as far as what he put on a piece of paper. But if you're looking at the sidelines, you're looking at Vic Beasley, you're looking at Grady Jarrett, all the guys that are come over. What did I do wrong? It's you have your coaching staff, but you have a Hall of Fame guy that's like, hey, listen, in that scenario, I'm blocking out here and then I'm cutting inside, right? If he's going to play you this way, you got to get outside leverage or whatever it might be. Having that prototypical veteran that can come in and teach these young guys, say, hey, I've been doing it for a long time. I'm very successful. Here's how I do it. Here's what I'm seeing you doing. And can you turn it into, your own sort of, because it's not just, it's a copycat league in some sorts, but right. It's different guys. You get some guys that are more lean, some guys that are, thicker and can hold their own and hold their weight in a gap. But it's having the guys that can develop the talent that, help you win football games. And I think you see a lot with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they had a lot of really good vets over the last couple of years. That's why the young guys have progressed. But a lot of guys like Walter Nolen in this class, I think if he gets in the right room and the right organization, I think, like you said, sky's the limit for this guy. Because like you look at his intangibles, his build, everything. I mean, like what the heck? Why is this guy like the 4th defensive tackle on the board right now? Like, geez.
Well, Brian, the draft, as we know, is about a month away come April, but it's March right now. We know March. It's all about March Madness. College basketball, big tournament. Guys, it is here. It's in full effect right now. And every game, that's going to be a chance to cash in. You want to know why? That's because my bookie's bet and get campaign. It's back to sweeten the deal. Once again, you can place a cash bet on March Madness games and get a surprise reward, whether that's going to be free bets or cash back, maybe even bonus chips. You never really know what's going to be coming down the pipeline here with the bet and get. So you can sign up now with our promo code. That's going to be MM50. Once again, MM50, and you can boost your bankroll with a deposit bonus that's going to be designed to help you get the most out of your money. So you can bet on every game, anytime, from anywhere. That's only with my bookie. Well, I've been your host and producer this afternoon, Logan Landers. Thank you once again to my co-host, Brian LaBelle, for bringing the heat and talking about Walter Nolen, the big, fearing defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Once again, we are 100 Yards Football, Sports Talk Radio. Until next time, we'll see you guys.